In November, the small city of Merritt, BC awoke to this, the aftermath of an atmospheric river that unleashed a torrent of rain.
Go girls, go girls, go girls!
In a matter of hours, the Coldwater River that runs alongside the city breached its banks, washing away roads, bridges, and homes. The force of the river grew so powerful that it carved a new route through the city. A key water main burst, and Merritt's wastewater treatment plant quickly became inundated by the raging river. With no running water, an evacuation order went out for the entire city of 7,000 people. When the rain finally stopped 2 weeks later, many residents returned to find their homes devastated. A thick layer of silt coated everything: basements, streets, and even the city's wastewater treatment plant, located not far from the river's banks.
This was all flooded out the day of the event. So during the event, our basement was filling up with water from coming through our manholes and running in through this chamber here, and it came up to the stair just level with the wall there.
The chief water operator here in Merritt is Kevin Vilak. He's been working alongside the public works director to clean up the plant.
The worst flood I'd been through prior to this was the flood in 2018 from the Nicola River, and in comparison, it was nothing. It was a mere trickle compared to what we just went through.
There can be many Merritt BCs in Canada. Those flood events could occur in southern Saskatchewan or southern Ontario or New Brunswick, pretty much anywhere.
Blair Feltmate studies how to prepare communities for the more severe weather of the future. In industry lingo, it's called climate change adaptation.
So adaptation is basically putting the measures in place that make it such that when the big events occur, the floods, the fires, the hailstorms, windstorms, whatever it might be, that the amount of damage realized due to those events is very much minimized because we've put the measures in place to keep the damage in check.
Climate change is causing rising sea levels and more intense storms, making flooding the biggest and most costly threat to Canada. At risk is the country's most important infrastructure. That's not just our roads and railways. It's electricity, fuel, water, and food supply, the basic necessities of life.
That is mission critical to the fact that if you're going to remain in the community, that stuff has to run. If it doesn't run, you have to leave.
When there's a flood, municipalities and provinces react. But what about preventative measures, like flood-proofing buildings and essential services? Most of that falls on local governments to plan and fund. The problem is, those things come with a steep price tag. Linda Brown is the mayor of Merritt, and she knows that most municipalities, especially smaller ones like hers, can't afford it.
We're talking bridges, wastewater treatment plants. Those two items alone are probably 30, 40 million. So there's a whole lot of dollars that we can't even fathom at this point.
Whatever federal funding is available is limited and competitive, and that's led to a patchwork of preparedness across the country.
The problem in Canada on climate change has been that up until just recent years, 98% of discussion on the climate file has focused on mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, which is a smart thing to do, and I'm fully in favor of that. But we've done so to the exclusion of talking about adaptation.
Even in the absence of national coordination, a few cities have started taking adaptation seriously.
So there was a huge storm system that moved through Edmonton in 2004 and caused massive flooding, especially in the southwest part of the city here. My parents were out of town, and so I rushed over here, and streets were flooded. People were actually canoeing out on the main road behind my parents' place.
Alberta's capital is prone to flooding. Don Iveson is the former mayor. For years, he watched as his city was battered by intense rainfall that caused flooding along the North Saskatchewan River, as well as in low-lying neighborhoods like this one.
It was really surreal to come back to the neighborhood that I grew up in and see so much of it underwater.
But it wasn't just that experience that made Iveson embark on a mission to transform Edmonton's flood preparedness. He was elected mayor in 2013, the same year that Calgary was hit by the worst flood in the province's history.
We got the clear message that the weather is continuing to change, the storms more intense, and that we needed, as Albertans, to all be thinking about this.
Iveson worked with the City Council and the local utility, EBCOR. They developed a 20-year plan for flood-proofing homes and critical buildings, and creating green infrastructure to divert and store water in the event of a flood.
So we're standing in front of the new dry pond in Park Allen here. And so what it allows us to do is take all the extra water that falls in a severe storm event about every 10 years or so, and actually store it in here. You'll see from the slope of the ground here that there's quite a big bathtub.
There is still a lot more work to do. One of Edmonton's treatment plants that provides water to nearly a third of Alberta's population sits on a floodplain next to the river. EBCOR is planning to build flood barriers around the facility in the coming years.
It's not going to come cheap, but it's going to save us billions of dollars in insurance premiums and avoidable losses, as well as a lot of heartache and a lot of disruption to families and businesses.
For every $1 invested in adaptation, we realize about $3 to $8 in savings per 10-year period in damage that now didn't occur.
Right now, damage that does occur due to flooding amounts to more than $1 billion every year. By the end of the century, the cost for damage to homes and buildings alone is projected to surge to $14 billion annually.
We have aging municipal infrastructure that breaks down when the big storms hit. We have aging housing infrastructure, and increasingly so, we're still building in the wrong places. As the population increases, we're building in places that are vulnerable to flooding.
In the wake of recent flooding catastrophes, there's a growing recognition that national leadership and a lot more money are needed to help prepare for the extreme weather ahead. But in some flood-prone areas, preventative measures won't cut it. Moving homes or entire communities away from floodplains is the only solution. In Merritt, Mayor Linda Brown says that's something they're now considering.
We have people that are living in areas now that are a bigger floodplain than we could ever imagine. So we really have to talk about moving some of them to drier land.
We know the solutions. The problem is we're not mobilizing the solutions nearly quickly enough. Therein lies the problem for Canada. And if we don't do that, we are going to suffer increasingly so due to extreme weather events, period. There is no way to cheat this system.